we want to do welcome and acknowledgement. We want to welcome you all for being here and thank you for coming. We also would like to acknowledge our partner in crime and gracious host this morning, Ellen Hill with the City of Monroe. We apologize. We have we are not trying to give Ellen another job or get her fired from the one that she has. So that was our mistake. We know very well that she is y'all's amazing director of community development. She works on housing, has been such an incredible champion for this community. And we are thrilled to continue to be in partnership with her. And then we also want to make sure that you know the team that's here with you on the ground. Ursula Ashley, which a lot of you know Ursula. She has joined the Housing Louisiana team in the last month and is the organizer in the Monroe area, which we're really excited about having not only partners who are hoping to stand up a regional housing alliance and work closely with Ellen, and also Ursula, who will be helping stand up a rent chapter around organizing around housing for Louisiana. So the Monroe area is going to have the beginnings of what we think is the optimal model for addressing housing, right? Having professional, dedicated policymakers and builders working together, that work being guided by the community, right? That work being guided and really by community and directed by community, so that it's a perfect balance. And so we're excited to be supporting Monroe in their efforts. We all are here for the Monroe leg of the Housing Louisiana 2023 listening tour. And we're really thrilled that you all are the first stop that we're making in 2020. We always enjoy coming to Monroe. And we've built some really great relationships over the years, including State Representative Pat Moore, who we're really thrilled to see here today and be with today. And we're going to hear from you all about, go ahead.
My colleague, they're in D.C. So they're doing business and having fun.
Right. That's right. It's D.C. Mardi Gras. It's D.C. Mardi Gras. That's right. That's right. Well, we're glad you're here. And we're glad Ellen's back. And so, yeah, so we're glad everybody is here. So the first thing that we wanted to talk to you all about is, and you all have it in hand. We're going to go over really quickly so we can get back to time, because it's more important that we talk to you and we hear from you. And yeah, okay. So everybody didn't pick them up at the beginning. That's okay. That's okay. So let's make sure that everybody has one in the room, and we'll, yeah, thank you, Ms. Pat. So this fact sheet breaks down some key statistics about what is happening in the Monroe region. Y'all have a fairly large region. This is 11 parishes in the Monroe region: Caldwell, East Carroll, Franklin, Jackson, Madison, Morehouse, Washita, Richland, Kansas, Union, and West Carroll. And there's different needs across those parishes and different issues. We always want to make sure that people understand and know what's going on in those areas and in those communities, and see how they compare, not from a place of, oh, I want what they have, but to understand that you're not alone. It's easy to get focused on the challenges in your community, and you should, but we also want folks to understand that there are other people struggling with these issues, not to convince you of its hopelessness, but so you understand why we want to focus on community engagement and community strength. Because if community says, hey, wait a minute, there are 11 parishes in this area and we're all dealing with some version of these issues, we need to make sure that our policymakers have the resources necessary to combat these problems. And then when they have the resources, they are in fact combating the problem. So We'll focus on Washita. And if you move to page 3, everybody has one in hand here. Page 3 of the document, we're going to go zoom in on Washita, which is where Monroe is, which is where we're standing. And this is looking at it across the board. When you look at issues like median home value, and that in Washita, median home value is $156,000. Median means exactly in the middle. It's not an average. So 50% of the homes in Washita are worth more than that, and 50% are worth less than that. And median rent is $814. And that means that contributes to your overall cost burden. About 30% of the people who live in Washita are what we call cost burden. Who knows what that means? That's okay if you don't. We're talking, listen, ma'am.
I'll just put it out there. And yes, simply, their costs are burdens.
That's the truth. Yeah, and
so the burden is overwhelming.
Right. But we also use there's a metric that we use to determine it. It's not spending more than 30% of your gross income on your total housing costs. So you're exactly right on the impact. It's the difference is how that is determined, how that is quantified, how that's measured from a high level perspective, right? You'll have people who who could be spending 20% of their gross income on their total housing costs, but because they may be only making $500 a month, that is a burden for them, right? But officially, what it means to have housing that is affordable is that you're living in a home that it is costing you less than that 30% of your gross income on your total housing cost. Now, and that says total housing cost. That includes utilities. But that's one of the challenges that folks don't think about, because you're exactly right, ma'am. How does the most expensive item that you have that you're going to pay for, the thing that is so critical, your housing, it costs more than you can really afford, and it makes it so that you can't pay for other things. You can't pay for transportation. You can't pay for childcare. You're struggling to pay for medical expenses, education expenses. You can't save. You can't go on vacation. You can't go to the movies. You're not thriving. That is a problem, and we always want to make sure we're grounding in that definition, because when people say affordable housing, a lot of people jump to conclusions, right? They automatically jump to, well, no one. They should just work. They should get better jobs, right? I don't want to spend my money on people who I'm struggling. Why do I have to spend more money on that? It's like, well, wait, let's talk about your struggle, right? Are you spending more than 30% of your income on your housing costs? So, you need affordable housing too. Subsidy programs like Section 8 and other programs that are out there, and public housing and other things, they're a means of creating affordable housing. They're not the only means. You could have affordable housing just by having a job that pays you enough so that you can afford your housing. So when you talk about minimum wage or living wage, that's also a conversation about affordable housing. So first, I want you all to take your time, look at this data, and let's see if you have any questions, any concerns, and also we want to know what does looking at this data, especially when you look at your neighboring parishes. When you look at, for example, a parish that is, y'all are the biggest parish here, obviously, but when you look at some of your neighboring parishes and see that their housing costs are so much lower, also think about what that means when you think about those communities, right? What's the quality of their housing? Are they getting more bang for their buck, or are they struggling because their housing is of a lower quality and that's why they can't charge much for it? And then think about, well, wait, is the median, if the median rent is $702 in Richland, or think about what those rental units might look like. And if folks, and that's just the rent, that doesn't include your utilities. How are those folks doing? How are they struggling when their cost burden is a little bit lower than y'all's? And we really want to have some conversation here and hear from y'all, and including on the folks on the chat, Charles, on the online. So if people, and please let us know if y'all can't see the document online, because what we could do is I could hold it up, and because I don't think you can't share it. Can they see the screen? So maybe do you have the document on your computer and you can share your screen? So we can give folks a chance online to really look at the data. So folks online, Charles is going to share the screen and while we have some conversations in the room.
So one of the things when I look at fact sheet, I kind of look at the rural area.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, my senator represents a lot of these, and then I got colleagues, but I look at here in Richmond, here the rent. But look at our population. Look at
Yep, that's right.
814 and take into consideration that information.
Right.
In the household, looking at 7,000 versus 68. But then when I look at Kensaw, 1,500, and West Charles, some of those parishes that we know are struggling in the northeast area.
Yep. All right.
Looking at 47%.
Mm-hmm.
Renter burden.
Right.
In Washita Parish.
Right. So almost half of your renters can't afford. Yep.
To everywhere else.
Right.
We are the highest cost burden
for renters.
And so me being someone who has been teaching very young adults how to budget and their expenses for housing.
Yeah.
At 30%.
Right.
Where does that put their income and their hope for ever being self-sufficient?
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So when my boss said, I believe you have the hardest job here, I understand what she was saying.
Right.
Because here I am encouraging them to go find work, and we have unlivable wages.
Right.
So thankfully, many of them get housing vouchers.
Okay. So that helps.
Thankfully, there is at least one program that helps them to have a place to stay. But, I'm looking at the demographics. It doesn't, they're not here on age.
No, we don't have them by age. So, and that's one thing that we would like to,
it goes across all ages.
And that's one thing that we would love to hear back from you all, any other additional points. We can get some of that data. And so Charles and Ursula and I can take notes on any other breakdowns that you want. So you'd like to see some of this information broken down by age, by head of household, age and head of household.
It would be helpful in the future. But also, the reason why we're here, I believe, is because there needs to be some programs in place, some funding made available, and also some how should I say, builders, etc., to actually come up with these solutions.
Right.
It's a coming together and an amalgamation of it all. And so I'm just thankful that we're here having this discussion, and I hope that we have many online who will also give input.
Yep. Thank you. Right here. Oh, wait.
That things have been already collected about this parish in these 11 regions. I want to understand, where does this data go? When does the money get attached to this data? I mean, we could keep having listening tours and we're hearing basically the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
How do you take action?
how do we take action?
Yeah. Yeah.
When is the money going to come? When is going to be available for us to access? Even if we in Ouachita Parish have more problems, why is it not being fixed at the lesser areas?
Right.
Because you have less people to take care of.
Low hanging fruit.
Yes, and go work back from West Carroll all the way back to Ouachita Parish, because we have a slew of homelessness here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see an array of homes coming up
Mm-hmm.
for people to access.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's just almost like a good meeting, but I don't see any. I just don't see anything happening. I don't see.
And you're not wrong. That I want to reassure you that you're not. It's not a trick. You are absolutely correct. It's not moving the way that it needs to because there's not enough resources to address the problem. The data right now is overwhelming, and so we also want to talk about what action y'all can take. And
Thankfully, we've got. Let's her feedback from it. Wait. There you go. Wait. I'm trying to turn it off.
Picking you up good.
Okay, there we go.
Okay. And see, that's my thing is, who do we talk to that has the money? Where is that line at? I mean, I see the data,
Mhm.
I understand the data,
Mhm.
but now who do we talk to get the money to see some of this happening come to fruition? I
So
just don't see it.
There's a couple people that y'all need to talk to. There's the local public policy officials, because unfortunately, Monroe doesn't have a lot of money to contribute to this challenge, right? So then you've got to be looking at, your federal partners, right? You got to be looking at state legislators. Look, y'all see Miss Pat over there, right?
Mhm.
Because no, that's one of the big problems that we have here in Louisiana. We don't spend in the state. We don't spend any of our own any revenue that we generate in the state of Louisiana. None of it goes towards housing. All of the money that the state of Louisiana spends on housing comes from federal appropriations. So when you hear folks talking about when we hear folks talking about healthcare and education and how we try to manage the budget when it comes to the colleges, right? That's all. They're not talking about housing because they're not spending any of that money. Housing is not on that list. We're talking about our prisons. All of that money is our money that's either been generated in taxes, sales taxes, property taxes, other revenue that the state brings in. Spending that money on those things, and the money that we get from the federal government is the only money that the state of Louisiana puts towards housing, and it's not enough.
And I do want to say that this past session, we did do something different. That's because, again, as far as like she said, we got federal dollars, but on the state level, what we did put some projects in what we call non-governmental projects. And thank God, out of 144 of us, we did get a grant that's going to be in my district for $250,000. That's the nonprofit organization asked for $500, but we got half of that. They got half of that. And that money, those dollars were the only ones as far as that was used for housing, kind of like seed money. Here, you get started, use this at the table, draw others, which that particular nonprofit organization is going to do, and bringing in other dollars. And it's starting on Wilson. And a lot of people say, well, why Wilson? We track the monies, what's happening over there on Wilson Street from March Street to Wilson. We have our Louisiana Purchase Gardens too. That's where I see the city of Monroe putting monies in, rightly so. But then, okay, let's track that. That's where they put in money. Let's go get houses there, first-time home buyers. So that particular dollars, you will see some movement of the soil. And then hopefully in these corridors, Jackson Street and all of it, Orange Street, and where I grew up over there by J.S. Park, maybe we'll see more. But we didn't get in this predicament overnight, and it's going to take us some time. But again, and of course, Ellen Hill and what they're doing. So we need mixed house. We need affordable rental properties. We need first-time home buyers. But again, where do we get these dollars from? And to be honest with you, they're projecting 2024, 25, 26, we'll be in a deficit. So you're not going to see those dollars. And we don't know what's going to happen at the federal level. So we won't be able to see those dollars. So we take advantage when we can.
Right, and here's the thing though, and I appreciate you so much, and your partnership over the years, y'all know y'all got more money than that state legislature, and I know you don't make that only, you're not the only person making that decision. And that's one of the reasons why we've got to talk about this and collective, because you do care and you would vote and you would advocate for these monies if the opportunity has been presented to them. We need more legislators joining you in that. For example, there's going to be a conversation next week about $45 million being made available to insurance companies. Not to the people who can't afford to pay their insurance, to the insurance companies.
Okay, explain that even.
Wait. I mean, okay.
Yes, so next, for those of you who are homeowners, and frankly, if you're a renter, you probably have heard about the insurance crisis, right? Because, and again, it's not just Southern Louisiana, it's not just the Houma Thibodeau area or Lake Charles or New Orleans. This is a problem across the entire state. So Louisiana citizens last year applied for and was authorized to increase their insurance premiums on average 63%. So in Louisiana citizens, is insurance of last resort. And by design, it is going to be 10% higher than the highest insurance in the market. You got 2 questions?
There we go. How about now? Now I'm back. Did it right. You did what you need to do. I didn't do what I was supposed to do. That's what happened. Okay, back to the insurance piece coming up next week. So, oh, there you go. Oh, just turn on the volume. Oh no, it's just the. This. There you go. That's what you need to do. Oh, we're gonna get the technology going. So back to the insurance piece. So insurance is it's sky high. There are people who are spending more on their insurance than they're paying back on their mortgage, right? That per month cost is that much more expensive, right? And so this is a problem because if you can't keep insurance, and something happens to your home, you're going to lose your home. Mortgages require insurance. And again, if you can't afford it and the worst happens, also we have a problem with the overall insurance industry because we don't have a diversity of policyholders. People are not writing insurance policies. So you may not even be able to buy a home. You may be able to afford a home, and you may not be able to buy a home because they won't write you a policy. Or you can't afford, once they calculate what your policy might be, it will throw you out of alignment and you can't actually purchase. Also, when landlords have these dramatic increases in their insurance, they have to pass that on to their tenants in increased rent. So again, you've got almost half of your renters in Ouachita struggling with this issue. What does that mean for those renters when you add these additional costs on top of it? So the insurance commissioner has decided what he thinks is a solution to this issue is giving money to insurance companies so that they will come back and write policies. That doesn't help people who will be stuck on Louisiana citizens and can't afford to pay that 63% increase. It will help people, in our estimation. What the insurance companies will do if they take these incentives is go in and cherry pick and pick people who frankly could afford to stay on Citizens because they make a little bit more money and they have a little bit more wiggle room. But and we also are worried about the fact that often now insurance companies use credit scores as a part of their calculation. So if they continue to use credit scores, that's almost certain that it's going to be people who are wealthier and again who could afford a 63% increase. As we talked about earlier, when you're calculating affordability, your income has a lot to do with it. Spending a third of your income is huge if you make $1,000 a month, which is $12,000 a year. If you make $2,000, that's 24, 3, 36. You know, there's numbers where you just keep adding it up and it's higher and higher. Even $5,000 a month is $60,000 a year. And again, we're talking about total household income, right? So that could be two adults making $8 an hour. They've got a couple of kids. $60,000 seems like a lot, but again, if you're spending more than that third, you're struggling. If you make $200,000 a year, if you make $500,000 a year, spending a third of your income isn't that big of a deal because you got a lot of money left, right? So if you're living in housing that is technically unaffordable, I'm gonna say it right now, I don't care. We don't care about that. And so you could bear the burden of a higher insurance premium. Yeah, you might not be able to do all the things that you want, but again, you can manage it as opposed to someone who makes $60,000 a year, or even the household is $100,000 a year, and they're really struggling. We don't think that the insurance companies are going to make that kind of distinction, that kind of equitable investment, because the insurance commissioner is making a recommendation that frankly benefits the insurance companies. We would prefer to see that, and they're using surplus money with that. So why are that's one-time money that's now available, and instead of it going to the people to help their needs, it's going to the insurance companies, and then the money is with the hope that it will trickle down. Yeah. And so so, ma'am, the question you asked earlier is what can we do about it? This is the moment, right? You got Ms. Pat here. We've got to get all our legislators. This session is happening next week.
Even tomorrow. Right.
So you got to start having the conversations and saying, and then there's an election this fall. Most of the state legislators are up for re-election. Got to have a conversation about, okay, what did you do in this last session? How much resources did you dedicate to making my life better, to making my community stronger? Where did you follow along with the same old plan that keeps getting us to the same old data set? Or did you look for a new alternative? Did you band together with other legislators who were like-minded and y'all found a different solution? And it doesn't have to be perfect. And it doesn't have to have, to Ms. Pat's point, it doesn't have to have an immediate effect. But if we don't start getting our elected officials to make these turns, to start making these investments, the policymakers, the people like Ellen, who can put the money to good use once they're given it to it. Ms. Pat just took y'all through a really great example, but you're talking about low six figures. right? That kind of program needs to be just here, increased by a factor of 20. And that's just here. So, and that's the part that gets people nervous, right? Because they're like, well, then we're going to have to fight and prioritize ourselves. No, we get together because there's not enough money coming for any of us. No community in the state of Louisiana is getting their fair share of housing funding. The state isn't even putting the money on the table. So it's not like you have to compete against New Orleans or against Shreveport or against Lake Charles. The fact of the matter is they're not putting the resources out there. And so we have a call on, we have somebody on the queue already, so we're going to do them. So I said we would go to them after I answered the insurance question. Charles? Oh. So we're looking for Marcella. So Marcella Hernandez, thank you, Marcella. Here's another thing in terms of housing. The little money allocated for housing does not include the unique challenges that the immigrant community faces. Including diversified communities might also help allocate financial resources to develop other initiatives that promote affordable and equitable housing. So that's what you want, Marcella's comment was the one? Yeah. Thank you. Okay, wait, okay. And Marcella, again, I agree with what you're saying. However, there is another piece that needs to be considered. Eligibility criteria. If we want to push for inclusive programs and initiatives, we also have to be mindful of the eligibility criteria program. So again, she's exactly right. We do need to get the resources moving, but we also need to make sure, and that's also connected to the complaint that we have about the insurance program that they're doing. Like, even if we thought that would work, the trap is who would be eligible for it? Who would get to benefit from it? If you thought it would work, you have to guarantee that the people who need to get off Louisiana citizens and to get a cheaper policy, because it's literally life or death. It's literally the choice between them losing their home and or losing access to insurance that they desperately need to protect them because we live where we live, as opposed to people for whom this would be an inconvenience, not to mind. We're not going to, we don't want to marginalize anyone, but we've also got to talk about risk. Everyone's risk isn't the same. And when Marcella mentioned the point about looking at vulnerable populations like immigrants, like people who have disabilities, like people, like kids who age out of foster care systems, right, exactly, young opportunity youth who are struggling, you also got to talk about how they work inside of these. So this is a crisis for regular folks. Those souls have additional burdens. And we've also got to make sure that those programs don't miss them, that they're not so broad, that they're not so, that they don't fit. And we see that particularly when we have disaster programs are designed. And again, and so we've got to do a couple of things. We have to make sure that the state resources are properly allocated, and at the local level, when the funds are are brought down to the local level, that the needs of community are centered in a way so that you're not just doing a cookie cutter program that looks like everything else and misses the unique challenges in your community. So right here and then here.
I want to go back to what you were saying in previous answers. You said something to the effect that what needs to be done to kind of help get the word where it needs to go. Were you essentially saying that those in this housing space, advocates, citizens, it's really is it as simple as letting your elected representatives know that these are your priorities and concerns, such as Representative Moore knows? Mm-hmm. Making sure she knows specifically what you're asking for, and then she goes to that new, and hopefully get help from some of the colleagues to advocate
So I'm saying that's a part of it. That's step one. You've also got to not just let them know what's going on, but you've also got to let them know that you have their back. And that we also need to be, and that they're, and we're gonna push her a little bit too. we're gonna help you. We're gonna tell you we're gonna get you what you need to do what community needs, and then we're gonna hold you accountable. Because it's multiple steps, that's right. So number one, it is having a relationship with your elected officials where you can have a frank, honest conversation. A lot of our elected officials don't come to meetings like this, don't sit with community, and don't listen, right? And so you've got to, and this is a good first step, but it can't be the only thing. The next piece has got to be, okay, what did I do to, and them explaining, here are my challenges. Here's what happened. Here's the person I tried to get to vote with me, and this person wouldn't. And that person also represents this community. Right, it's got to be, and working across parish lines, working across districts to get more people. That's why sharing the data is important about who else you could be enlisting to your cause. What other communities? And that's one of the things that Ursula and Brandon and and Omari and the rest of the Housing Louisiana team are also going to help you all with, because we want to help you build a statewide network of resident leaders who will engage with their elected officials and policymakers and hold them accountable. And they typically call it building power, right?
Are you still in step two?
Now, see, I'm not the organizer, so I'm going to talk about, I'll walk through the steps. So step one is getting educated yourself. You have to know what the issues are, and you have to have resources to continue to assess these, because these are going to be complicated problems. Step two absolutely is engaging with your elected officials and talking to them about the challenges. And something happened to my internet, which is fine because I'm still on the phone. Oh, perfect, because Omari can answer this question more succinctly than I can.
Hey, can y'all hear me?
So we can't, wait, hold on, we're going to get Omari to speak. We're going to turn the volume on this one.
Okay, can y'all hear me?
No,
Hello?
hold on 1 second. Don't say anything yet.
Okay.
Don't say anything yet.
All right, good morning, everybody. How y'all doing? Can y'all hear me? Hello? Maybe because y'all are muted, because I can't hear y'all. But hopefully you can hear me. And again, my name is Omari Hossein, and I am a resident organizer with Housing Louisiana. And to answer the question about the steps, you know, one thing a lot of people, you know, we talk about how to make transformative change, but, you know, seldom do we have the space or the opportunity to talk about the tactical steps to get us there. And Andrenika mentioned a word that gets me excited all the time, and it's power building, or a phrase, an idea of power building. In order for us to make change around housing or any other issue or ill in our community, we have to build an infrastructure to make that change. Just like there needs to be an infrastructure for housing, and infrastructure for the city, for water, flooding, dealing with issues of weather, there has to be an infrastructure to change the things that we deem need to be changed. And Ms. Marie earlier, she asked a really good question that I think the organization ROLA, Residents Organized for Housing Louisiana, its existence answers Ms. Marie's question. In the face of this data that we continually go over an overview, but that many of us are living the experience that the data is telling us. The question is, what do we do with it? And Rolla, bringing ideas together, understanding the facts, getting to know the issue more intimately. Step one, Rolla helps us to do that. But another important piece that Rolla does in terms of organizing is bringing this issue to the people who are experiencing the problem, activating them, helping them to understand that they have the power building, that they have the power to actually change this issue. So one thing that I challenge each person in the room to do or online to do is to look at that fact sheet. Look at them are most concerning to you. And where do you want to move the number? Where should we move that number, right? How should we change that piece, right? How many people do we believe should be housed by this time next year in terms of the unhoused population? How many houses do we think need to be rehabbed? How many This is obviously just a first step for us to get where we need to be. But we also have to understand that the changes that we're talking about today, especially when it comes to housing, it's not overnight, right? It's a systems change piece. So I encourage everyone to attend our next Rolla meeting to better understand the issue and to be a part of the organizing, whatever role you see yourself in terms of the piece of the organizing you see yourself. Attend the next meeting so that you can be a part of the action steps that Ms. Marie referenced and that Andronika was talking about. And I hope y'all heard all that.
Mari, thank you so much. We had a couple of little glitches.
I'm still wanting my question to be answered. If
Yes.
it's fully answered, let me know. You mentioned steps, and it sounds like step one are the things you mentioned, like getting familiar with what it is you want as the person being affected or the housing advocate to set actionable steps where you can measure your progress. Okay, if that's all step one, what is step two?
Well,
Like
I think that's
5 steps, and you can give us those 5 steps. If that would help us also, we know we leave here with an action plan.
So the next step has to be, there aren't 5, 10, 20, 100 steps. It's going to be individually decided by you what your next step is going to be. You see what I'm saying? So the next step is, as Amari said, the first step is deciding what you want to work on. Next step is actually engaging and putting together a plan on how you do that. And that step could lead to 100 steps. It could lead to a 10-year plan. It could lead to a 16-month initiative around a single issue. And so the next step that we will help you address, to Amari's point, is in March, we're going to be kicking off the Rolla chapter here in Monroe and across the state. And so the next step we would invite you to come into is to come to that next meeting so that you can work with your neighbors and other community members to think about what the third step is going to be.
So the second step, again, that's engaging with the elected officials.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, got it.
So there really is not a strategic plan. The plan is that we come up with the plan as we see the need.
Yes.
When we meet people and doing different things will cause something else to happen. So that's going to come out of how we engage and what part we want to engage in.
Exactly. And if you decide through that work, okay, we're hitting these issues, and wait, Charles is, okay, come back and engage and do a high level, comprehensive strategic plan. Mm-hmm. Right? There is that on the table, but that's down the line, right? We gotta run before we can fly, right? And right now we're sitting, tilting over a little bit. So we gotta stand up and then start talking about walking. And
the Rolla stands for something, or
Residents Organizing for Housing Louisiana.
Will you just repeat that for anyone who might have been trying to write it down?
Oh, Residents Organizing for Housing Louisiana. Yes, ma'am. And then Brandon.
My name is Rosalind Downs. So I work with the VA, Fulton Brooks VA Medical Center out of Shreveport, but I actually am specifically working at the Monroe Outpatient Clinic, helping identify homeless veterans. I'm the outreach social worker for veterans. And so I'm born and raised here. It was very concerning to me moving back here, seeing the amount of people that are homeless and that are at risk of becoming homeless. And now looking at the cost burden, I can understand it better, and working specifically with veterans who are homeless. And the problem that I'm having is seeing, is the correlation between the cost burden being stated and identified as far as how those people will become homeless eventually.
Right. That's
so
right.
They will not be able to afford it.
That's right.
And those people that are homeless will not be able to find safe and affordable housing.
Right.
That is always
That's right.
a concern of mine, because I have a special passion for veterans and believing that they deserve a safe and affordable place to live. And so when you have limited resources and you go out and look at some of the communities that no longer take pride in their yard or their neighbors and what's going on with the abandoned houses, I cannot.
Or they even can't.
Yes.
Like sometimes, like I want to interrupt that in just 1 second, because it's a teachable moment for me. People assume that that's what it is, but you work in case management.
I've seen,
Folks are traumatized.
Yeah, and I've seen some of it. More times than not, it is not a safe and important place for a person to live.
That's right.
So there are certain stereotypes, and I grew up on the South Side, so I know what people assume about the areas and things like that. However, there was a different time. Some people took pride in their communities,
or they had access to resources to do that.
But when you place someone who does have, because the veterans in our program, most times than not, have to have a mental health diagnosis and or substance abuse history. So when you go in explaining that to the landlord, of course, there's going to be some pushback or concern about, the safety of the neighborhood, and informing them they will have a case manager, you will be checking on them. So that's the difference in our program. You will meet with them on a regular basis. However, if they already have some traumatic, things that have happened to them or some struggles that they're having, whether it be that they're reentry from prison or whatever the case may be, everybody has a story, right? And regardless of what that story is, I cannot in good conscience, in good faith, place someone where I would not stay, because that is somebody's mom, dad, sister, brother. And so when we can't and the market value, people want to charge, an arm and a leg when their income, they don't have any income, or they're waiting on their disability claim, or the insurance price is about to go up. How do we address is the homelessness being addressed, as well as the at-risk population? Because many people, even in the middle class, are living paycheck to paycheck.
That's right.
Risk, especially if this thing happens with, next, they're going to be finding themselves struggling.
Right.
So I want to know if there's something that is specifically identifying people that are at risk of becoming homeless and those that are homeless, and are veterans also included in this data?
So yes, so this is all high level data, and you can break this data down to those vulnerable populations. And like I said, one of the things that we want to do is there's a model that we have developed and deployed around collecting information to that level of specificity and setting up policy strategies for those different groups. It's what we do in New Orleans, and we're helping other communities stand those up as well. That's that big high level strategy that I was talking about. Before we can get to that, you've got to be able to understand the data and respond. One thing that's really frustrating about this process is as you step into around how I want to advocate, I want to organize around housing, you're stepping into the middle of a crisis, right? And there's a million priorities. And it's one of the reasons why we lean so heavily on engaging with you all, so that there's just a million things that you could do. You look at these numbers, there's a million people you could help, literally, right? And we do have to start having some level of discernment and prioritization. And so that is one of the things that this process should do. If you continue to engage, you can absolutely make sure that are going to be lifted up. Specifically, the needs of homeless have to be a part of it. this was treated as a separate issue inside of a housing, and in fact, homelessness is the proof that the housing system has failed. Right? That's it. That's what happened. The answer to homelessness is more affordable housing. So instead of separate pieces, and part of the reason people separated them was for exactly the things that you talked about. The stereotypes about people being drug addicted. And again, it doesn't mean that those things don't happen. It means what you're doing is the answer. Those folks need wraparound services. So does the
out here as I am in that abandoned home or that neighborhood where they're doing whatever. So people will decline services, they feel like they're not safe.
That's right.
They're gonna struggle with their money.
Brandon, then Ellen, and then somebody else at their hand up. Yeah, sorry, ma'am. Brandon?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Brandon Caples. I'm not going to take too much time. I'm one of the statewide organizers with Housing Louisiana. I just kind of wanted to reiterate what Amari's testament on what's the next steps. So Ms. Marie Brown said it best, right? We look at these priorities. We definitely want to work with you guys, but in March, I want to, Ursula has passed around a little small slip. Can you guys hear me?
Brandon, you're cutting in and out.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Ursula has passed around a small
No,
slip.
we can't hear you. You're speaking. We can't.
I am so sorry.
So Brandon,
hold
on.
You can hear me
second.
now?
I think it's the, hold on. Oh, hold on just hang on 1 second.
And I'll join by my phone too. See if that helps.
So it's the device you're being broadcast on. That's the problem. Try now.
Yes.
Brandon, try now.
Can you hear me now?
No, actually, it might be your device. Because I'm listening to my phone. Try now.
Hello?
Yeah, no, it might be you.
I'm joining by my
So, but Brandon, if you can hear us,
Yes.
The slips have been passed around. Ursula has passed them around so that we can get folks' follow-up information and bring folks together for the kickoff in March, because we're not back again just to share data. We are ready to help you get started.
Recording in progress.
Another question. Oh, Ellen, and then over here.
To the group, the city, we got awarded, again, federal dollars, because, local dollars are not invested in housing. So we got awarded 1.1 million of American Rescue Plan Fund. And, we're working on a plan. We have rolled it out before, and several people, I think we probably had over 100 people respond to our survey asking what the priorities will be. Long story short, homelessness and the prevention of homelessness is key to those funds. So we will be putting together, for the first time, the city will have tenant-based assistance, where we will work to help prevent someone from being homeless, or somebody who's on the verge. We're gonna put together a 12-month program, and then work on making sure that person is on maintenance or something else to stabilize their housing. We don't have the capacity. The other issue is the capacity, right? I don't know how many people do what you do, but you might be just you. Correct. And so a lot of us is just a couple of us. And so, you know, we don't have the capacity to have a large, full-fledged program, but the everybody heard of the Continuum of Care? You know, Sarah Johnson is the executive director for the Continuum of Care. They also have access to American Rescue Plan funds to work on homeless prevention. But for the first time, the city is getting money specifically that drives us to doing something about that. Again, this is one-time money. So we're going to do what we can, just the way we did with our COVID dollars when we helped over 100 families with rental assistance as a bridge. You know, we're hopefully going to put together a program that's a bridge again for people who are in crisis or close to it, so that they don't end up on the street. This is a real issue that I think, you know, the community needs to begin to better understand and truly work on advocating. Because those of us on this side, we can only do when we get the resources.
Right.
And the resources
And the
most
room,
part-
and the room, right?
Correct.
The directive.
Correct. The resources come with 20,000 rules. So, for example, the feds roll this money out. You know, when we finally got a final template for that money, a year later, October 31st, they finally finalized how we should submit our plan. And by the way, we have to submit a plan to them.
Right.
They have to like it.
Right.
And then they tell us we can do this. But in the meantime, somebody's getting kicked out their house. So, you know, they didn't do it the way they did it with CARES Act money that allowed us true flexibility. And so we were probably the only city in Louisiana to stand up a rental assistance within a couple of months.
Orleans did, but we had our own money.
Well, see, they get millions.
Yeah.
So they probably had money in a,
But in fact, we actually, the money that we had was our own local trust
oh,
fund,
wow.
that people in New Orleans decided not to refund,
Oh, God. See?
to reauthorize.
See?
So
It's because of education or the lack of.
the lack of education.
Right?
That's
You
right.
can set up a housing trust fund locally.
Right.
We just got back from a conference where people do that out of their tax dollars, out of every time people build a new unit, putting up so many little things in there where they could literally set aside affordable units or pay into the trust fund.
Right.
Now that I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
Again, most of these places that are doing this are above the Mason-Dixon line.
Yeah. That's right.
All right.
Room for the money posted somewhere where a person knows they qualify?
Not until they're finished designing the program.
We have to send it to her based
Yeah.
on our rules. That's the way we did for housing, rental assistance, where we put it on TV and we had tons of people come and filled out that survey to say we're gonna do it. But this time we'll also reach out to those in different services so you know we have that gap assistance available. So we'll definitely.
All of the housing assistance money, and pardon me if I cut you off. Did you exhaust it for those?
Our rental assistance, yes.
Good, because I was
Yes.
trying to get people to kind of.
Yes.
So I'm glad
Yes.
the money is used.
Yes, we definitely help people and use up all our rental assistance funds that we set aside. Just like we set aside for small businesses and we helped about 10 or 11, same thing.
you know, we exhausted our little funds that we.
But again, you know, it is about
But again,
investment.
Hold on, sorry. Keep on.
So, I mean, I'm just glad that this is, I can't say it enough to all of you to encourage other people to join the group.
Yep.
To learn. For the last 3 years, I've participated in nothing else to learn.
All right, it is 11:36, and so we promised y'all we would end on time. And we also talked about the priorities. One of the things that you all are going to get a follow-up survey about this. You have in your packet. Yes, ma'am.
I just remembered my question.
Oh,
The process, I want to know if there's anybody in the organization, because it seems to me the things that need to be done, that there has to be a specific person that's pulling together, as you said earlier, somebody has to be a lobbyist for this.
yeah.
On the level of the community coming together to fully target politicians. Are we going, the people that's over Monroe or Washita Parish or these other parishes coming together to go to Baton Rouge? Like you said, they didn't come into session.
That's what we're hoping to do in time for the regular full session in April. That's why we're kicking off in March, so that we can talk about what we heard and listening towards the end, get y'all re-engaged, get y'all working, and hopefully there being an action at the April legislative session when the full session starts. So yes.
I want to just take this opportunity to be clear. I was sort of being a little snarky when I said lobbyists, because my point was, you know, they're representing businesses, interests who have a lot of money,
Yeah,
who can take these politicians out to dinner and give them expensive trips and all that kind of stuff, which is why policy all over the place looks like it does. So
But
we're gonna lobby, those of us who are on the grassroots level, we have to come very strong to get their attention.
That's right.
We can't afford to rent out Ruth Chris Steakhouse and have everybody buy everything and order anything they want for 100 people.
But you have more power than those people. I want to be real clear about this. One of the things that happens is the reason that system works is because you all are not stepping into that breach, into the gap, and exercising your power. Because they can take them out to as many Ruth Chris Steakhouse dinners as they want. Some of these people can't even vote for them at all because they don't live in their district, or they don't even in the state. And so if you as voters say, I don't care how many commercials you run, telling us how nice you are, how good you are, how I'm a business my life has not made by you, gotta go.
So we do it through voting. That's a lobbying.
That's the next, that's one of the, like, wait, the next steps, I'm sorry. Because that's a part of the steps, right? Because once you talk to them, once you engage with them, and if they betray you, right?
Whatever.
It's one thing to try and it doesn't work, right, because you don't have enough other legislators to help. That's one thing. But we have seen elected officials who make commitments to community renege on those commitments, and themselves, they will introduce a piece of legislation and water it down to the point where it is functionally useless. And then they want you as community members to applaud. Everybody laughing, y'all can't see me because I'm clapping. They want you to applaud what they have done and then re-elect them. And that's the cycle that we got to interrupt, that y'all have to interrupt. We talk about this, our role in this part of the reason, like, so we can help, we can show you all of the weak points, the places where community, when wielding power, can strike, but we can't do it for you because we've tried.
Right.
Ms. Pat knows. Ms. Pat and I were actually
DC at one time.
We were in DC a few years ago and had the indignity of having to stand out in the hallway as as her congressman, didn't want to meet with us.
And I just want to say this to you all. I'm gonna try to be at that meeting in March, but we don't know what's all gonna take place. We do know that we are going to convene in April. But this is the point. We need you. We're beginning to file bills. You need to be able to pull these bills up and what's being filed. And then we have in committee meetings. You need to either be there or send your email and certainly contact us about things. But this is one of the things I want to let you know. Look at the makeup. Look at the makeup of the legislative body now. And yes, we're gonna go down and we're gonna try to fight. I am planning to seek re-election, but don't hold against me. You can't do. We will fight for you. We will try to do our part, but just remember, super majority, right?
Yes.
And then election is coming up. And then this is your opportunity to get all these people out and go vote. We need to continue to organize that. Yep. So keep that in mind. And even if there's super majority or whatever, but at least you will have the opportunity to go in here and say something. Hopefully, when you're looking at those 7 statewide positions, at least try to help us get a governor in that will work with us. So we got to start doing this right now. And do you know in the school system, in the school districts, kids can register to vote, right? When they're about to turn 18. But whoever put that on, they cannot tell them which party or whatever on what, setting this up and voting, but not just registering. Get out and go vote. So, and let me tell you all something. You think just because we go and vote for president, maybe
every 4 years
DC and all, but let me tell you, what's more important is a local. And we gotta get that right.
That's right.
Gotta get that right.
All right, so
I hear Representative Moore, and what she's saying for those people.
That's right.
Quite hear it, is she's saying that in the Louisiana legislature, the Republicans have a supermajority, which means they have at least 65%. So they can totally ignore what the Democrats are doing because they all vote together.
They only have a supermajority in the Senate. They don't have a supermajority in the House.
We go back for the next.
And so
if
when you look at the numbers,
right,
accepted.
Right, exactly.
We have a Democratic governor right now.
Get out.
So, okay.
He can block some of the madness.
That's right. So here's the thing. We've got to wrap it up. It is 11:43. We're 15 minutes over. We promised election. Now we started late, and there's a couple things that we want to make sure that we talk about. Charles has.
Are we on mountain time?
Charles, what are we doing?
Marcella had a question in the chat.
I thought it was answered. Trent answered it.
Can you get addressing the adjudicated part? Can you get that before we go?
Yes. So, yeah, I want to go over this. I want to make sure we go over this really quickly, and you don't have to stay, but just so you know, you can hear it to go out. These are the priorities that y'all put together in 2021. We have heard from you all today a number of issues. We're going to make sure that those priorities are also included in here, including, for example, making sure the needs of the homeless are addressed, not just simply a homeless preference, but making sure that there's quality units, quality housing. The staff is going to go back and listen to the recording and make sure that we get those priorities. You all, as well as everyone else who was invited, is going to get a survey so you can rank these. We want you to make sure you participate and fill out the survey, right? So that you can rank the priorities. And if you didn't see something that you really felt passionately about that you didn't get a chance to talk about, you can write it in. And then in the meeting in March, one of the things that we're going to have is the priorities that you all will have set. And that's what you're going to start working on first.
Where would that meeting be held?
We don't have a date yet, but we're working on that.
What is the acronym for ROLA? Is it ROHLA?
You got it?
Okay.
Yep.
recording be available for all of us?
I think we can. It's on Facebook. Okay, we will make sure we send the link for the recording in the survey.
Yes.
We'll figure it out, and you'll just be able to click the link, even if you're not on, even if it is going to Facebook, you don't have to be on Facebook to access it. But
And
we'll make
also
sure you
they'll
get it.
get, underneath it, they'll also get
Talk about the
a,
importance of organizing. Oh, Brandon.
I'm sorry, they'll also get a follow-up with the link for the meeting, the actual recording of the meeting too, after this meeting as well.
Okay, so Brandon, they can't hear you, but I'm gonna relay that.
Okay,
That you're
thank
gonna get a link to the meeting as well as a follow-up call. In
Yep.
addition to the survey. So thank you all so much for coming. We appreciate y'all. And we realized actually the late start actually happened because we got critical mass towards the end. So, and we appreciate everybody who's online, who's online patiently waiting since 10 a.m. Thank you all so very much for joining us. You will also get the links to the survey. You will also get the link to the video. Thank you all so much. Y'all take care.
All right, thank you.
Bye.